Hi guys, David here. In today's video, I want to talk to you about the Fujifilm X-T2 and how you can change the front and rear command dial. So if you want to change that to shutter speed, aperture, ISO, or even using exposure compensation to make it more like a DSLR. Okay, so a lot of people were asking me how you can adjust the front and rear dial to make it more like a DSLR. Because I know whenever I was shooting weddings, I was shooting a Canon 5D Mark II at the time. And I was used to using the front and rear dial. Whenever I'm, composing, I could just, change the front, the shutter speed or ISO or aperture. And since I was changing it, I switched to Fuji, then I had the top dials, which I love, but whenever it comes to like weddings and things like that, when I'm trying to move real quick, for me, it was just a lot easier just to be able to adjust the command dials front and rear for that. So I thought maybe there, like I said, some people were asking me about that. So let's go in to show you how you can change that on the XT2. If you have the XT3, you have a lot more options. If you have the XT4, you have a lot more options. Maybe I'll even think about maybe making a video for that. But they're kind of similar in the settings. So let's go ahead and change the settings for the command front and rear dial. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and turn that on. We're going to go into the menu and we're going to scroll all the way down to the wrench, the setup function, and then we're going to go to button dial settings. And if you don't have it set yet, we're going to scroll down to the SS operation and change that from off to on. We want to change the command dial settings. You have two options. You either have F for f-stop or aperture for the front dial, and then the rear dial would be your shutter speed, or you can change it to using the shutter speed as the front dial or aperture to have the rear dial. Right now I'm going to just select F to have the aperture be in the front dial and the back dial would be the shutter speed. And then you're also going to want to change the ISO. So if you go down to ISO dial settings and have the command instead of auto, because if you haven't changed it, it's probably going to be an auto. So whenever you can see the A on the top wheel for auto, we're going to change that to command. And that's pretty much all you need to do in the actual settings menu. Okay, so on the top dial, we're going to want to change the ISO. If you have it just set to a regular ISO, we're going to change that to A. On your shutter speed dial, you can change that to, so we're going to change that to T. And then your exposure compensation could just stay at 0 right now. And then obviously the lens, if you're using the Fujifilm lens and it has the aperture ring, then you're going to be adjusting that with the lens. If you're shooting with a lens that doesn't have a ring, aperture ring on it, then you should be able to adjust the settings with the command dials. So if you try to change the ISO with your command dial and it's not doing anything, like right now mine's not doing anything, you want to press in to that button and now it's going to change to ISO. If you hit that again, it's going to turn it off and you're going to see there's a little menu that pops up. It goes from F to ISO and you just keep pressing that and it's going to bounce back and forth. Since you have a Fujifilm lens with a aperture ring, you're going to be adjusting the aperture with the lens itself. So we just want to press that until the ISO shows up. So the front dial is changing the ISO and the rear dial is changing the shutter speed. I usually shoot in manual, but if you're shooting an aperture priority and you want to use the exposure compensation, change the exposure compensation to C. And then if you do that, you're going to need to change the shutter speed dial from T to A. And now, since we changed a lot of those settings, you know, exposure compensation and the shutter speed, you're going to notice if you press the button on the front command dial, you're going to have three different options. You're going to have F for your aperture, you're going to have exposure compensation, and then you're going to have ISO. So you're just going to press those 3 times depending on what you want to change. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, you can always put them in the comments below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.